Good morning and welcome to our Teen Sunday School class. We're going to get back into our miracles. With I believe we ended last week. We were talking about some of the miracles in the Old Testament, like the different things that happened in the Old Testament. And then, sometimes you can try to compare the Old Testament and New Testament, like the miracles and different things about how a prophet would go and pray and seek the Lord, and next thing he knows that they're healed, or they have food, or just different things. And then go to the New Testament where Jesus, with his miracles, he'll just touch somebody right there and they're healed, and just different things. But we're just going to get back into the talk about some of the ones in the Old Testament. Now, Old Testament had a lot of different prophets, and a lot of miracles were done by several different prophets. We can probably name some from Moses. Like, what was some of the miracles Moses that were done by Moses?
Parting of the Red Sea,
Yeah, parting of the Red Sea. What's another one?
I guess it's a miracle, but when he struck the rock and the water came out, that was more of a him miracle, but
There have been times where there are two options, and I have a choice between talking something out. Just kidding, when you get mad, just pow, and that fixes it. That fixes it, but it's not the right option. I feel like that's what Moses did. He was that guy, like with the Egyptian, guy, he was beating the slave. And instead of going like, "Hey, could you please stop?" He's just like, "Hey, boom!" and then killed him.
Popular guy with both the anger issues.
Yeah, he's just like But you can either hit something or you can talk it out. And Moses, hit something.
Moses' miracle.
What about
the snakes?
I would say the snakes, the rod turned into.
I don't know if it was him technically doing it.
Well, it was God using him.
And none of them.
Every miracle is God using them.
The snakes. The rod turned into a serpent. What else was another one from Moses?
All the 10 plagues.
The water into blood.
Yeah, all the 10 plagues.
All the 10 plagues. Yes. I mean, those weren't wonderful miracles.
No.
Or, different things. But, I don't know.
The battle thing with the sun. They held up his arms.
Yeah.
Yes, when they held up his arms, they were.
Parting of the Red Sea.
Was that him with the sun?
Yeah, it was. It was him.
There was another one.
And
There was another one with where I don't think it was the sun, but
that was Hezekiah with the sun.
No. I mean, where he held up his arm. Whenever he held up his arms, the Israelites did better, and then whenever he dropped them, the other people did better.
So
they
Joshua and
I think they popped him with stones or something on that one.
No,
Joshua and somebody else
held up his arm.
Yeah.
Unless it was Joshua that had the sun one. I remember one of them. It might have been. I don't know. It was, I think it was Moses though, but it was whenever he held up his arms. There was one where the sun wouldn't go down.
I think this one it's the same one because the sun didn't go down, and
I thought Joshua did one where the sun didn't go, like the sun stayed in the sky.
Maybe he did.
There is one that Joshua.
It's similar.
Yeah, I remember Joshua being in one.
Yeah. What about trying to think of different ones that miracles. Moses, we talked about Moses. I mean, we could talk about God all day. It's like, for real. Trying to think of other ones that, like Old Testament. Joshua did some. We talk about Elijah and Elisha, the different things that he did. I mean, there's several people that, even in the Old Testament, actually, let's look at Elijah.
Was his name Elisha or Elijah?
Elisha.
Alright, so let's look at some of the miracles that Elijah did. Sorry. Let's go to 1 Kings. What's the first one? 17. Yes, 17 and 1. Oh, this is. He didn't really do this one.
Which one is it?
This is talking about.
Oh, the rain. Yeah. I mean, but none of.
Well, I guess
Yeah. No,
they were formed by him. God gave him the.
right.
So it is his miracle.
It is
But
kind
that's
of
it,
like with Joshua. Did he, would it be a miracle through Joshua of the walls falling down and through the trumpets? Or
Well,
would it
God
be,
gave it to him so people could see how miraculous he was. So I would say yes.
okay. Because did God do that and he was just,
Well, God did all of them.
Right,
Yes,
well, I
but
know
he
that,
had
but
he
there's-
used.
But can you say like the miracles of Elijah?
I think the difference is him using a person to fulfill something versus
Telling.
doing it like the dove with Jesus and John the Baptist. That was a miracle performed directly of God,
Of God.
because he sent down the dove that was
Yes.
the Holy Ghost.
Well, but and now I'm putting out that not thinking about that all miracles are done by God. As
Yeah.
far as that,
Mm.
it's really a difference of it's like Elijah when the meal poured out and whatnot, and it kept going. That was technically done, by him.
Yeah.
As far as not, done by God. As far as he had something, Elijah had something to do with that, where he had, he made the choice of what she was going to do, and God did it. Versus having something like, where God directly did, like Moses raising his staff in the Red Sea parts.
Yes.
Versus just a miracle happening, like it's not going to rain for 3 years, because Elisha just knew that was going to happen. He couldn't change that. He had to pray that God would take away the rain. So I mean, it wasn't directly done by him, but there are several miracles in that category that weren't really done by the people, but were more miracles, overall miracles of God that they knew about, I would say.
So what do you think about this one then?
I think it was just a mess. I wouldn't call it a direct miracle.
Yeah.
As far as I know, but if it's mentioned, it depends on what's mentioned as a miracle, because it has to line up for Elisha to get that, his double portion. So if it's a miracle, it's a miracle, I guess. I don't know.
Which miracle specifically are you talking about?
The rain.
The rain. This is 1 Kings 17:1. And Elisha the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, As the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. And the word of the
Okay, I feel like that's a God miracle.
Okay, see, that's what I was.
And
That's what I was trying to figure out.
So are the ravens.
Ravens, yes.
Yeah,
That's a
they're
God.
not-
That's a God. That's
Right.
yeah. He didn't say ravens
Not
come
like
give me
Elijah
something.
It's
commanded
like
them.
Yes.
Gideon, where the stranger, the angel put the food caught on fire or something, and it wasn't really, didn't really do that.
Right. So you can differ the miracles that was actually done by Elijah, and the ones that God did for Elijah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the
Because if Elijah
ravens.
didn't do them, they were done too.
Yes, like the ravens. God did that for Elijah.
Yeah.
And then so do you think the rain, the dry of the rain, no rain nor dew, did
I
God
think
do
the
that
drought
for, or Elijah?
I think it was. I think it was a.
I mean, I'm sure Elijah wasn't all that ecstatic about not having water for 3 years, so.
Well, no,
Well,
but
when he got his,
Right.
like that, I think it was just God saying, "I'm tired of Ahab, no rain," and then Elijah
Cut
was
you
like,
off.
Elijah's like, "Well, oh man," they had to go tell Ahab, "And it's
Yeah.
no rain for 3 years."
all right, okay, so there's that one. We're seeing if it's one done by Elijah or to Elijah, I should say.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the widow. This is one it's talking about the widow of Zarephath. And the widow, which is 17, it's in 17 also. How do you speak in 17:14? Okay. So the miracle is, for thus said the Lord God of Israel, the barrel mill shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth. Okay, so let's go back some. And the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, Arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belongeth to Sidon, Sidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. So he rose and went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was there gathering of sticks. And he called to her and said, Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel, that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thy hand. And she said, As the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. And Elijah said unto her, Fear not, go and do as thou hast said, but make me therefore a little cake first, and bring it unto me, and after make for thee and not for thy son. But thus saith the Lord God of Israel, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day that the Lord setteth rain upon the earth. And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah, and he and her house did eat many days. And the barrel of oil wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord which he spake by Elijah. Okay, so what do you think that one is?
That's an Elijah miracle.
That's an Elijah miracle. So imagine, though, you're gathering up your last meal for you and your child.
The way that this is worded always makes me laugh, which is terrible. But it's always like, I'm gathering 2 sticks that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die.
Yeah, they.
Well, and
really
it's prolonging your death. I mean, if you're really gonna die, why would you just make? You should just not, because then you know.
They're like, well, we gotta run out first, and then we'll die.
Yeah, it's like you only have a little bit left. You can only get one more cake, and I want to die.
It's not. Well, it's after that they would starve though. That's why she's saying that. But imagine that, and then here comes a prophet that you probably heard of and heard about, and said, give me something to eat first.
Celebrity shows up on your doorstep. You know who I am,
right?
Make me a cake.
He said, give me. I pray thee, fetch me something, a little water in the vessel. And then bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thy hand.
I love what that issue is with the bread. And like she had water despite it not raining for 3 years, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we don't have any food. It's a drought.
What if they knew about the drought and everything like that, and so they gathered what they could before the drought happened. And so she could have just had that a little bit then.
Yeah.
And so it didn't say anything about her water though. It was talking about her being able to eat.
They must have had some kind of. Maybe they had like a well or something that hadn't dried up.
Maybe.
Because it wasn't an issue even to give it to a stranger. Like, give me some water. And she's like,
because it hadn't been 3 years yet.
No, it hadn't been very long.
Otherwise, she wouldn't have said it'll last till the drought goes.
Right. It said, the meal shall not waste, neither the cruse of oil fail until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth. And so when it started raining, she didn't have no more. But she was able to go get. And so we would say that is a miracle done by Elijah.
They must have gotten tired of that though, because all they had was like a little meal and oil, and that's all they ate.
But if everything was, if it started raining and I don't know how that worked either, because if everything dried up, that means the rivers with the fish, with they probably ate turtle.
Yeah. The fish probably came in with the ocean. I guess I don't know how oceans work.
Maybe the ocean line.
I'm imagining.
Well, because when you see a lake and it hasn't rained a long time, how it looks like. Well, especially our house, when it hasn't rained for a long time, you can actually walk in where the lake usually is because there's no rain.
But then again, the oceans are different because it was only in that land, and Israel is very small compared to the entire ocean of the world.
So we would say the cruse of oil was done by Elijah. Okay, the next one is, which they didn't give me that one. Bill? They didn't give that one. Oh yeah, it did. It just gave the part where. Now this is the widow's son from the dead.
Oh yeah.
This is Elijah. Okay, so is this a miracle done by Elijah or one that the Lord did for Elijah?
I'd say done by Elijah.
Okay.
Because he was the one who directly.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had to pray to do that.
Yeah, and he did. He was like, and it came to pass after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick, and his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him. And she said unto Elijah, What have I to do with thee, O thou man of God? Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance to slay my son? And he said unto her, Give me thy son. And he took him out of her bosom and carried him up into a loft where he abode, and laid him upon his own bed. He cried unto the Lord and said, O Lord my God, hast thou also brought evil upon the widow with whom I sojourned by slaying her son? And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times and cried unto the Lord and said, O Lord my God, I pray thee, let this child's soul come into him again. And the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came into him again, and he revived. And Elijah took the child and brought him down out of the chamber into the house and delivered him unto his mother. And Elijah said, See, thy son liveth. And the woman said to Elijah, Now by this I know that thou art a man of God, and that the word of the Lord is in thy mouth. In thy mouth is truth.
That feels very...
Yeah, that's...
Yes,
it's
very
like,
much so.
After he...
It's like, hey, my son liveth. Now I know you're a real prophet. Hey, you want a cake? Wow.
Here, have some cornmeal that you provided us with for 3 years.
Man, I don't know about this prophet guy. I mean, sure he saved us from life, but is he really a prophet?
Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance and to slay my son?
Alright,
he's here to kill me and my son. He's here to kill me and my son after saving our lives.
Alright, let's look at another one. Okay, so this by far is one, I believe, one of the best ones that, if we say, is done by Elijah or God did for Elijah. The fire from heaven. Mm-hmm. The detail that they put in this one is just phenomenal. Yes.
Well, and a lot of times in Kings, they would just like put, they would act like they didn't have to write it because they just like put, are not all these other things related in the book of Chronicles?
Yes.
It's just like,
Why?
Why do I have to write this down? You go read it somewhere else.
Right. Okay, so this is when Ahab and his god, little g, Baal, they wanted to, how do you say that? They wanted to go against Elijah and his god, Big G, and so they said, okay, let's get an altar, put a, what was it on? What did they put on there?
He said to the prophets of Baal, choose you one bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many, and call on the name of your gods, little g, but put no fire under. Mm-hmm. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which was made. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them, and said, Cry aloud, for he is a god, little g. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth and must be awake. Similar. I love. I live
one of
the energy
that's
going on.
In one of the versions, it said he might be in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I know. No class. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lances till the blood gushed out upon them. It came to pass when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice. There was neither voice, nor any that answered, nor any that regarded.
Well, first of all, who wants to challenge God? Not me.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
And
so they thought
how long did they do this? They did it until. Did it say how long they cut themselves or whatever? It was morning until noon. But it wasn't even morning until noon. It was after that because at noon is when Elijah was making fun of them. Yeah.
Evening. Yeah.
Midday was past evening sacrifice. Mm-hmm. So like all day
they did that.
Just jumping around, leaping on the altar. Hey, Bill, hey! And then like cutting themselves. Hey, maybe if I cut myself, I'll be over here. Help! Right. Like I don't understand that, but then Elijah's just making fun of them all day, just laughing at them.
I'm loving what he has going on here.
I know.
Yeah. Cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he's pursuing, or he's in a journey, or remember he's sleeping. There must I love that.
I'm wondering where you could get that from any of those because it
You
doesn't even
can't.
come.
It just,
Yeah, it doesn't
no,
come
it's
close.
just those ones that.
Which is funnier, but
I'm like, oh, that's Redeemer.
Yeah.
So stupid.
Okay, and so as we could tell, it said no, Elijah is something.
he probably
And-
didn't kill the prophets of Baal. He probably killed themselves with all the knife stuff because they started cutting themselves at like midday
Yeah.
and until evening.
It didn't say they cleaned it up either.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, so it says Elijah took 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order and, and cut the bullock in pieces and laid him on the wood and said, Fill 4 barrels with water and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. And he said, Do it the second time, and they did the second time. And he said, Do it the third time, and they did it the third time. And the water ran around the altar, and he filled the trench also with water.
Imagine him just be like using, because I'm sure the king has water when nobody else does.
That's probably what he was using too.
So he's like,
so much
oh, let's
water,
use the king's water and pour it out here a bunch of times.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's no way they would have had that much.
Because that's 12 barrelfuls of water.
Yeah, so he
and
got.
they were like huge barrels.
They
too.
wasn't.
Yeah,
they were
they're like
not
the big
small
barrels.
barrels at all.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it says, and it came to pass at the time of the offering the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came in and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Okay, before I get to that one, let's see. So he got an altar.
Imagine if nothing
12?
happened.
Yeah.
He was like, hear me, please.
Yes.
After all this water I've just wasted, I
Like, imagine the prophets of Baal doing the same thing. That would be so embarrassing for them.
Oh, please, Lord, you have to hear me
Now
now.
that
I
I've
made
poured
fun of
water
those guys
Right,
because
so-
the God is on the toilet. And,
Yeah.
and I made fun of him. He's sleeping. Please hear
Right.
me. I'm right here. I don't want to have to stand here and all the people say, well, he's a fake
If it
too.
was 2 false prophets going up against each
Yes.
other, and they used the same amount of
Yes. Okay, so for Elijah, it filled 4
Thank you,
barrels.
Lord.
How many barrels of water did he have? Was it
It was 4 barrels.
4 barrels?
and
And they did it 3 times.
So
Okay,
that's 12
so
barrels.
12 barrels of water. So this wood and this sacrifice, it is soaked. I mean, soaking wet, and you can.
Like,
But
the
doing
entire
something
drink
like that,
jug is
like
full.
yes, the whole thing is full. When something's wet,
And of course,
you
they
can't.
put it in a unit of
you can't
measurement
burn
you can
it.
understand by saying 2 measures of seed.
Right. Well, when something is wet, you can't burn that. You would use that to put out something,
Yeah.
not to light something up. And so
It doesn't matter
and
how much lighter fluid you put on it, it just won't burn.
it won't, because it's soaked. It's like taking your clothes out of rinse out of the washer,
Yeah.
and the water is dripping from it. But so he did that to prove what God can do, and then you hear his prayer: show these people that you are God, and I'm just your servant. I'm not anything. I'm just doing
That's
what
why
you.
I think this is a God miracle.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so.
But he didn't do it. I mean, he just prayed.
As
for it.
when you read in verse 38, then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. It was all gone. Oh, there was nothing there. And
Fire
the,
burning up water. That takes
Yes.
a lot of
yes,
fire.
Burning up stones.
It's
like,
stone,
even, like
and-
the stones that we have in our fire pit. They're not directly in it, but like they crack, but they don't like
they don't
actually
burn up. Yes.
And the
Whereas
dust,
this one's the dust.
dust.
He
How
burns
you-
the
How
dust.
you burn dust?
Like,
It's just like a hole going down to the earth's core,
and the water, 12 barrels of water.
and the 2
So
measure
it's
of
like
seed.
wet.
Okay,
Too.
so
Yeah.
you know how when you do a fire pit, how if it's there for a little while, it leaves the just the ring, and then where the space was that even something to be considered when he did that? Because
know,
everything
because
was
of
gone.
dust.
It was
Yeah.
gone. But there was no trace of.
So there probably wouldn't even be termites on the ground.
No,
to burn up the dust.
there was no trace of anything.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, so we would say this miracle is
just
done.
like have like an elephant and he just puts like a little tiny
This
cat
is
over
done
it.
by God, and Elijah was just being the servant, because he even said that.
Yeah.
He just humbly asked.
He just humbly asked, and the Lord said, "Let me show them who I am." Although He's done that plenty of times. All right, let's look at another one.
I always love how the people are like, the Lord, He is the God. The
Yes.
Lord, He is the God.
Yes, every time. Then
They should have put D in capitals.
40,
like,
yeah, they
italics
should
or
have.
something. Just
and
D,
the next one is okay. So we did the one where there was not going to be any rain at all. So here we're now at a place where Elijah goes and prays for rain. So would this be a miracle done by Elijah, or just Elijah being used by God to show how miraculous
I
he
think
is?
again, this is.
I think it's
God.
done by Elijah. The difference being is that before he just said that there wasn't going to be any rain.
Whereas
Whereas
this
now
time,
he had to pray like how many
He's
7
praying.
times or
Well,
something?
by that logic, then
yeah,
the same
7
thing.
times.
Then this one's also an Elijah.
Right.
If
No,
you're
no, no,
using
no.
that logic.
well, that,
No, the first. I'm saying the
first time the rain.
it wasn't. It was God saying, and then because the difference is that He told Elijah, He was like, "Hey, go and tell Ahab there's not going to be any rain." Right? That was already decided. Elijah didn't really have anything to do with it. This one, he was like, "Lord, you know." Now he also didn't have too much to do with it because of the whole 3 years thing. God said that there wasn't going to be any rain for 3 years, but he also had to pray and tell the servant to go 7 times while he was praying to go look for the rain cloud.
yeah.
So I think
What I'm saying is, if Elijah praying justifies it as an Elijah miracle, then so is the fire from heaven.
yeah, he had to pray for it.
Yeah, he prayed for that.
But I think we said the Elijah, the fire from heaven. Yes, we agree. The fire from heaven was a God
I
miracle
don't agree with that.
because all we did was pray.
Yeah, but he prayed for the widow's
Anybody
son.
can pray for it. You know,
Yeah,
prayer isn't really a miracle. It's God who did it.
right. But it's still, if he hadn't prayed for it, it wouldn't happen. It was still done by him.
So it's done by him.
I think,
Okay, so
I think
what
the
do we
fire
say
from
is-
heaven. I think the fire from heaven was a God miracle.
What's the difference
rain
if
was
you
more
don't pray
than
for it? So like you
Elijah
raise your
and God
staff,
miracle.
Red Sea parts, you didn't
Well,
pray
he
for
said,
anything.
here's what she just said, that it's both.
Yeah.
It's both.
Okay.
This one can
Well,
be
they're
both.
all both.
They're all both,
I mean-
but
But
like
these are more both.
specifically,
Okay.
like specifically, and
Okay, I see. Yeah, anyone can pray for them. Anyone can do miracles.
do they do it to would okay?
Yeah.
Which okay? This
It
is
would
talking
be your miracle.
about
It would be technically a miracle with you because you prayed for them.
No, I'm just saying it's how it's classified.
this is okay. So this in
Okay,
18 and 41 is talking about Elijah praying for the rain, and then him going to Ahab and telling him, you know, get thee up, eat and drink, for there's a sound of abundance of rain. So Ahab went up to eat and drink, and Elijah went up to the top of Carmel, and he cast himself down upon the earth and put his face between his knees.
What a
So
contortionist act.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he is praying for the rain, and it came to pass at the 7th time that he said, behold, there ariseth a little cloud of the sea, like a man's hand. And he said, go up and say unto Ahab, prepare thy chariot, and get thee down, that the rain stop thee not. And it came to pass in the meanwhile that the heaven was black with clouds and wind, and there was a great rain. And Ahab rode and went to Jezreel. And the hand of the Lord was, and the hand of the Lord was on Elijah, and he girded up his loins and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Okay, first of all, Ahab is in a chariot.
Yeah, and he's the king.
And he's the king, and he probably has the fastest ones. But Elijah, which I consider another miracle in itself, he ran past him and got to the gate before he did.
Yeah. I feel like that
So
should be considered way before like any other like. They also put it in such uncertain wording as far as it doesn't. It's just like he was there before him. He went before him, so he could have been closer to Jezreel.
Well, but he wasn't. Remember?
Right, he wasn't.
He was in.
But
he was
like you know, it just they could have said he ran faster than Ahab.
He said he ran before Ahab.
Imagine Ahab's got his chariot going and he looks to his left and a little dude in a tutor goes on your left.
He's got the roadrunner legs. He's like,
yes.
Hey man.
Okay, let's look at.
See you there.
Right. Let's look at these last two for Elijah, which we're gonna go to 2 Kings now. 2. Okay, this is where Elijah is about to be taken, and so it's going into Elisha, and so this one, 2 Kings 2:8, and Elijah took his mantle and wrapped it together and smote the waters, and they were divided hither and thither, so that they too went over on dry ground.
I always feel like those aren't, like, you know, when they say things like they went over on dry ground, if you had like like when they drain stuff, the ground is like mud. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not dry ground. It's like, it's hard to walk in, it's hard to walk across even when the water's stable. Every time,
Well, it was
every
dry.
time, everybody's like, it was dry ground. And
that
just
means that when you walk on the beach, the top part, you know, on the top part of the beach, it's dry. But the closer you get to the water, it's
right,
wet.
it's so much easier to walk in
Yes.
dry ground than it would be to walk in. Because like even the ocean, like in like if you keep walking out where there's still water, the ground is like it's harder because the water's still there. But when you take the water away, like up the top part of the beach, then the ground is all mushy. What? Oh, okay.
We're
We're about finished.
Yeah, that's about it.
Elijah
Well, you know,
took
like with the parting of the Red Sea, that was another thing. Is they went on dry ground, and then it to the point where the ground was turned into mud when the Egyptians came.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people take the dry ground to mean that they just walked across and there was no water there. But it was actually dry ground, which is another miracle in itself.
Yeah, that is itself. So we talked about Elijah. We hope that you come and join us next week because we'll be talking about some other ones that have done miracles, and then we'll slowly get back into Jesus' miracles. I hope y'all have learned something today. You'll probably laughed some today.
We did.
And because we really did. And we hope that y'all have a wonderful day. Happy Father's Day to everyone. And pray that you'll join us in our Sunday morning service.